If you put $100 into an investment today at a historically normal market return of around 10% a year and never touched it again for 40 years, it would grow to somewhere around $4,500. $100 invested once, left completely alone, becomes over 40 times its original value without you ever adding another cent. Now imagine that same person invested $100 every single month for those same 40 years. That's not $4,500 anymore. That's over $630,000. And here's the part that matters most. Of that 630,000, less than 50,000 was ever actually deposited. The rest was grown. Here's the part that should genuinely bother you. This isn't complicated math. It's something almost every school in the world skips entirely, while spending years teaching subjects most people will never use again in daily life. The reason it matters so much is that compound interest doesn't feel real when you first hear about it. The early years look almost embarrassingly slow. After the first full year of putting in $100 a month, you would have contributed $1,200. Your account would show around $1,257. $57 of growth. That's it. That's genuinely unimpressive. And it's exactly why so many people give up before the actual magic even starts. Compound interest isn't a straight line, it's a curve that looks almost flat for a long time and then suddenly isn't flat at all. Most people quit during the flat part, right before the curve actually bends upward. Let me tell you about two farmers who started with the exact same plot of land, the exact same seeds, and the exact same weather. The first farmer harvested every crop the moment it was ready and sold everything, every single time. He always had cash in his pocket and always looked to anyone watching like the more successful of the two. The second farmer did something that looked, frankly, a little foolish to his neighbors. Every harvest, he sold most of his crop but replanted a portion of the seeds instead of selling them. Every single season, without exception. For the first 2 years, the first farmer clearly had more to show for his work. The second farmer's farm barely looked different from where it started. By year 5, something had shifted. Subtle enough that you would need to be paying close attention to notice. The second farmer's fields had grown larger without him doing anything differently, because each season's replanted seeds were producing a new harvest, which then got partially replanted again. By year 15, there was no comparison left to make. The first farmer was still working exactly as hard as always, staying in the same place he had started. The second farmer's land had multiplied so many times over that a single season's harvest now dwarfed the first farmer's entire early yearly output. Neither farmer worked harder. Neither got luckier with weather or soil. The only difference, repeated every season for years, was whether the harvest got fully consumed or partially replanted. The mechanism behind this is simpler than most people expect. When money is invested, it earns a return. In a typical year, that might be somewhere around 7 to 10%, depending on where it's invested. The next year, that return isn't calculated on just your original amount. It's calculated on your original amount plus last year's growth. That's why your money is earning returns on its own returns, year after year. applied to a larger and larger base, which is exactly why the growth curve stays flat for a long time and then accelerates sharply later. This holds true whether you are investing in any part of the world. The specific vehicles differ: index funds, mutual funds, fixed deposits, retirement accounts, but the underlying math is identical everywhere. Time and consistency do the heavy lifting, not timing the market or finding some secret stock. Here's the number that should actually change how you think about this. Someone who invests $100 a month starting at age 25 and stop entirely at age 35, just 10 years of contributions, $12,000 total, and then leaves that money completely untouched until age 65, ends up with around $357,000. Someone who waits until 35 to start and then contributes the same $100 a month every year all the way until 65, 30 years of contributions, $36,000 total. Three times as much money put in, ends up with around $226,000. The person who started earlier put in a third of the money and still ended up with more. Not because they were smarter or luckier, because they gave their money more years to compound. And those extra early years were worth more than years added at the end. So, the real question isn't whether you can afford to start investing right now, it's whether you can afford to keep waiting, while every month you delay is a month of compounding you never get back.